Hello everybody, it's Non-Seeing News here, and today we've got a lot of breaking updates today. So obviously, the biggest news come today is coming from Syria, where the biggest news obviously is Assad al-Bashar has decided to step down as president and leave the country, instructing a peaceful transfer of power, the Russian Foreign Ministry stated. So Russia did not actually participate in Assad's negotiations with various parties involved in the armed conflict regarding the transfer of power, the ministry added. The Russian diplomatic service also noted that all necessary measures are being taken to ensure the safety of Russian citizens in Syria as well. So even Wikipedia has now updated their Assad profile to the Syrian politician who served as president from 2000 to 2024. So Wikipedia has already updated their sources and their information. The HTS rebels, who have now taken over all of Syria, or most of Syria, if you can see here in the green, have already put on a bounty on Assad al-Bashar. So the Syrian opposition forces have announced a $10 million reward for anyone who helps capture Bashar al-Assad. So we've got news that Bashar al-Assad has actually fled, you could say flee to Moscow. So Assad and his family members allegedly arrived in Moscow. A source in the Kremlin told the RIA. Russia, based on humanitarian considerations, granted them asylum. So again, we don't have any video footage of this actually being the case. We've got no evidence to actually support this claim, but based on a lot of sources and obvious predictions, Assad and his family have apparently arrived in Moscow. So big news. Now talking about the HTS rebel groups, its leader. So the leader of the rebel groups that took over most of Syria has arrived in Damascus. So if you can see here in the bottom left corner, the first thing he did when he arrived in Damascus was pray, obviously. So he also actually went to the Omniad mosque in Damascus too. So he seems to have a lot of supporters in Damascus at the moment. But I'll keep you updated on that. The Syrian Prime Minister Mohammed left his home to hand over his official power to the HTS. So if the previous Syrian Prime Minister, so the one who served Assad al-Bashar, was captured at his home, and he decided to actually stay in Damascus, where he vowed to do a peaceful transfer of power. So the Syrian Prime Minister stated that he would not leave Damascus to ensure the functioning of the state institutions. So the Syrian Prime Minister has not actually left Syria, and he's decided to stay to make sure that everything works normal when the transfer of power happens. So we don't actually know what's going to happen after he transfers the power. He may be dead the next morning. Who knows? But very interesting news. We've also gotten some news that Iraq has ordered the embassy evacuation in Damascus. Iraq has ordered the Iraqi embassy in Damascus to be withdrawn. And if you don't know now, this here in your bottom left corner, this is now the new Syrian flag. So instead of the red color at the top of the flag, it's now green, and now instead of 2 stars in the middle, it's now 3. So this is now the new Syrian flag, it seems. Donald J. Trump has already commented on what has happened in Syria. So you can see here on an X post, he said that Assad is gone. He has fled his country. His protector, Russia, led by Vladimir Putin, was not interested in protecting him any longer. Sorry. There was no reason for Russia to be there in the first place. They lost all interest in Syria because of Ukraine. where close to 600,000 Russian soldiers lay wounded or dead in a war that should have never have started and could go on forever. Russia and Iran are in a weakened state right now, one because of Ukraine and a bad economy, the other because of Israel and its fighting success. Likewise, Zelensky and Ukraine would like to make a deal and stop the madness. So I'll just stop right there because he goes on about Ukraine, but we're focusing on Syria at the minute. So according to Donald Trump, the reason why this has happened is because Russia has lost interest in Syria and decided, I guess, not to fight or support Assad al-Bashar, I guess. So that's according to Donald Trump, the president-elect of the United States. Now let's go on to some really big news that's happened between Israel and Syria. So we've got news that Benjamin Netanyahu, the Prime Minister of Israel, has instructed the army to seize the buffer zone with Syria and the command post adjacent to it. So Syria has actually launched, I guess, a special military operation into Syria, where it's now seizing all of the demilitarized zones within adjacent to Israel and Syria. So this is basically what they have seized. So this is the border between Israel and Syria. They have now, it seems, captured a big chunk of territory of Syria, and if we just measure from the top parts the Israels have advanced to, Damascus is only 40 kilometers away from Israeli presence. So this is very big news. So the IDF, so the Israeli Defense Forces, has issued a warning to militants not to approach the buffer zone in the Golan Heights, where the IDF soldiers are conducting a ground operation to strengthen the border. The IDF here, if you can see here, is actually apparently 14 kilometers deep into Syrian territory. So if you can see here, the IDF have captured Mount Hermon, where you can see these three IDF soldiers pose their flag. And the next news is that exclusive footage has been shown here in your bottom left corner of Israeli tanks and bulldozers breaching a wall on the border of the Golan Heights region, entering Syrian soil beyond the Golan Heights for the first time in more than 50 years. The Israeli army announces it has struck 100 targets across Syria in the past hours. So Israel has not just launched a military operation, a ground military operation in Syria, it's also launched a huge missile operation throughout Syria as well, targeting mostly airports, so destroying the old Syrian aircraft like the MiG-21s. We saw what the HTS rebels captured, and most of what the HTS rebels actually managed to capture, Israel is apparently trying to destroy it and has done a successful job at it. So if you can see here in your bottom left corner, we can see the Israeli strikes on the Syrian military targets. So very big news. The president of Iran has already condemned the Israeli army's operation of the buffer zone on the border with Syria, and a lot of other countries are doing the same, now condemning Israel for its operation in Syria. We've also got news, if you're actually wondering where the National Syrian Army is and how the National Syrian Army let the HTS rebels take control of Syria, most of the actual Syrian National Army actually crossed into Iraq. So if you can see these videos here in your bottom left corner, we can see tons of videos of Syrian National Army troops actually entering and taking up refuge in Iraq. We don't know if they're actually going to become like in the army of Iraq, so they can join the ranks of Iraq. But we've just gotten news that most, it seems, or a good chunk of the Syrian National Army decided to flee to Iraq. So big news. And now let's head to Turkey, where we've got news that Erdogan, the president of Turkey, said that there only are two leaders left in the world, himself and Putin. The president stated that the next 2 to 3 months are going to be very important for the world and Turkey, Erdogan noted. We've also gotten huge photos reportedly being pictured from the Turkish-Syrian borders. According to reports, thousands of Syrians are returning to Syria following, obviously, Assad's government's falling and him apparently taking up refuge in Moscow. So, according to these videos and these pictures, thousands of Syrian citizens are apparently returning to Syria. We've also got news that I've decided not to really add in at the moment, but I'll talk about it. We've got news that Turkish troops have apparently entered northern Turkey. I don't know why they've entered. I think it's because of a deal that the Russians and maybe the Turkish have made to try and escort the trapped Russian servicemen, that are trapped in northern Syria out. So Turkish troops have actually entered Syria, according to the latest news, but I'll probably get a full answer to that next video. Now let's go to Croatia, where we've got news that the Croatian Ministry of Defense has announced on the 1st of December that it would no longer use MiG-21 fighter aircraft for peacetime air defense missions to protect its airspace, but only, obviously, as it states, at wartime. So the Croatian Ministry of Defense has announced on the 1st of December it will no longer use the MiG-21 fighter jet. Now let's head to Paris, where we've gotten some huge news that the President-elect Donald Trump, the President of France, Macron, and the President of Ukraine, Volodymyr Zelensky, have all visited in Paris. So the meeting between Trump and Zelensky lasted 35 minutes, and this meeting was just really about negotiations and how to end the conflict in Ukraine. So according to the President Zelensky, peace is only possible through strength. Trump actually called for an immediate ceasefire in Ukraine and negotiations to Zelensky, but Zelensky, in the end of the conversation, rejected Trump's call for an immediate ceasefire. He also noted that he does not want to accept peace agreements without security guarantees. We've also got news that Trump will absolutely consider leaving NATO if Washington is treated unfairly. So the source is NBC. So NBC has stated that Donald Trump will absolutely consider leaving NATO if treated unfairly. So that's really all that's happened between the Trump and Macron and Zelensky meetings, negotiations, and Trump calling for immediate ceasefire and ended up getting rejected by Zelensky due to no security guarantees for Ukraine. So I'll just keep you updated on that. The next news is coming from Germany that the Alternative for Germany party has officially nominated Alice Windel as the candidate for the German Chancellor. So the Alternative for Germany party has officially nominated Alice as candidate for the German Chancellor. We've also got news today that Germany has halted Syrian asylum applications. So the Federal Office for Migration and Refugees says that it has currently paused all asylum decisions for Syrians, citing concerns that the current rulings would be on shaky grounds. So according to the German authorities, 47,270 asylum applications from Syrians are affected, including around 46,000 first-time applications that have not yet been decided yet. However, the new situation in Syria currently has no impact on existing decisions, the source Der Spiegel reported. We've also got news that Austria has also suspended asylums for Syrians, and I think more countries in Europe are going to do so as well. Now let's go to some Ukrainian updates. Zelensky says that a second batch of F-16s from Denmark has arrived in Ukraine. So he noted a couple months ago that 6 were going to be included in this Danish package. So we can expect 6 brand new Danish F-16s. Well, I wouldn't say brand new, but F-16s have arrived in Ukraine. So again, we don't know if the Ukrainians actually have the necessary pilots or ready pilots to actually go on these F-16s yet, or them to be actually effective, but I'll keep you updated on that. We've also got news that the US is to send 988 million military aid package to Ukraine, Reuters reports. So the United States is preparing a new military aid package worth $988 million for Ukraine. This significant allocation will nearly half the remaining 2.21 billion available under the Ukraine Security Assistance Initiative, the USAI program. The package is expected to include additional weapons and equipment to bolster Ukraine's defensive capabilities. So the US, we can expect in the next couple of weeks that the US is going to send $988 million and additional weapon systems to bolster Ukraine's defense. We've also got news that Donald Trump has done a personal interview with, it seems to be, NBC. So it's a quick 20-second clip about Donald Trump sending military aid to Ukraine. Here it is.
Should Ukraine prepare for less aid from the United States after you're sworn into office?
Yeah, probably. Sure.
You said you can end the war in 24 hours. You've even said you want to try to end it before you're sworn into office. You're actively trying to?
I am.
Have you talked to President Putin?
No, I have not.
You haven't talked to President Putin
No, I have
since
not.
you've been elected?
No. Well, I don't want to say that, but I haven't spoken to him recently.
So you've spoken to President Putin since you've been elected?
I don't want to say that. I don't want to say anything about that because I don't want to do anything that could impede the negotiation.
Very interesting statements coming from Donald J. Trump there. We've also got some news coming from Russia. We actually don't have too much news coming from Russia, only Pentagon statistics. So the Pentagon chief reported that Russia's war cost exceeds $200 billion with 700,000 casualties, the Pentagon chief stated. So since February 2022, apparently according to the chief and the US Defense Secretary Lord Austin, since February 2022, Russia has spent over $200 billion on its war with Ukraine and suffered at least 700,000 killed or wounded, the US Defense Secretary Lord Austin reports. So obviously, this might be completely wrong. Obviously, this is the main enemy of Russia, so obviously they're going to bump up the numbers a little bit for public support of Ukraine, but maybe the Russian casualties are maybe half, I don't know, but according to the Pentagon, Russia has suffered at least 700,000 casualties since February 2022. We've also gotten some reports coming from the Kremlin spokesman, Dmitry Peskov. He stated that it is premature to talk about maintaining Russian bases in Syria. This is a subject for discussion with those who will lead Syria. Russia is establishing contacts with those who can ensure the safety of the Russian troops in Syria. And that's all the really news we've gotten from Dmitry Peskov. And now we've actually received some news coming from South Korea. So South Korean law enforcement has arrested the former defense minister Kim Jong-un on suspicion of treason as part of the investigation into the circumstances surrounding the President South Korea's declaration of martial law. So the South Korean law enforcement have arrested the former defense minister of South Korea. And we've also got news about 150,000 people attend a rally in the capital city of South Korea, Seoul, demanding the resignation of the president of South Korea. Yonhap news agency reports. We've also got news that the South Korean President Yoon Suk-yeol faces an overseas travel ban as police investigate the declaration of the recent martial law. So on Monday, the country's corruption investigation chief confirmed ordering the ban, on which the ban is an overseas travel for the South Korean president in response of the martial law that happened last week. And now let's go to Taiwan, where we've got news that Taiwan's military set up an emergency response center and put troops on the highest alert levels as China created 7 reserved air areas and sent Navy and the Coast Guard ships to waters around the island. So due to mainland China's recent military movements, Taiwan has set its military emergency forces on high alert due to recent Chinese movement around the island with its navy and air force. We've also got news that a record 9.5 tons of cocaine was seized in the Dominican Republic. According to the National Directive for the Drug Control, the largest haul of cocaine ever seized in the country was hidden in a shipment of bananas from Guatemala. This country here, which I can never really pronounce, Guatemala, I think it is, was bound to for Belgium. So a shipment containing 9.5 tons of cocaine was seized at the Dominican Republic. That the boat was actually headed to Belgium. So if you can see here in the bottom left corner, we can see the shipment that was full of this illegal drug. And now let's go to the last news come to today, and it's coming from Colombia. So Colombia police are putting good use to weapons that are seized from drug cartels. So Colombian authorities have now melted down 23,000 seized weapons, including rifles, pistols, mortars, and grenade launchers for metal in future construction projects. So the Colombian police are now melting down weapons, so obviously firearms that are captured by drug cartels, and melting them down and going to be using that metal for future construction projects. So that's all the really news I actually have for you today. Not much news not much news around the world happened today, but I just want to show you this quick feature before I go. So Google Maps have apparently added a new system where you can actually access old satellite imagery. So I can now actually look at satellites from, I don't know, 1985. So I just thought this was a cool feature that Google Earth has added. So I can now see the world that it obviously looked like in 1985. So I can see, maybe let's go to England, and now let's go to 2000. Oh, that's a lot of forests that have been cut down. What, 1940? But that's all the news I actually have for you today on Non-Scene News. I'll try and provide you news, sorry, that medias around the world do not show you. I do these videos hopefully daily, so consider subscribing and liking. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you all later. Bye.